Good evening and welcome again to 2020 Vision. I'm Jenny Fisher, editor of East London News, and this week we're going to be looking as usual at some of the news across East London. I'm here this evening, as I was last week, with Councillor Paul Merry from Redbridge. Paul, we hadn't planned on having you back so soon, but you and I were talking after last week's show and discussing the various trials and tribulations we're both facing. So this week's episode is our lockdown hell, and we're going to have a right moan for most of it about how difficult it is surviving in lockdown when the combined forces of the state are against you. So, are you having a good time in lockdown, dear viewer?
Yes.
Or is it a bit bad for you too? How's it been like having the kids go back to school? Has that worked for you, or have your children not gone? And what's it like now that parking enforcement is beginning to kick in again across East London? Phone us up. Do share your stories. We will listen, and we'll put it all together into the big melting pot of lockdown hell. So get it off your chest. Give us a ring, 0208 12345 07. And you can come straight through to the studio and talk to us. So ring in and let us know your stories. But Paul, you and I have a couple of stories to start off with. And you've been having an opportunity to deal with some trees this week, I believe. Trees have been your life.
We're always dealing with trees.
Now, I'm not hearing you, Paul. Does that mean the viewers are not hearing you?
It should. Can you hear me? Should be.
I think it's possible the back room might need to unmute. I hear it.
I think I am unmuted.
Yes, unmuted you are. I can hear you now.
Are you receiving me?
Receiving you now, loud and clear, Paul. That's fantastic.
Welcome to Councillor's Corner in Wanstead. This is the little patch I'm allowed here in a household with 3 other adults and a large dog. This is the little bit they allow me to conduct my business from. I presume you're still in self-imposed house arrest.
Yeah.
In your change from last week.
Yep, I'm still under house arrest. Yes, or shielding, as they call it, which sounds more medieval, really.
I've lost you.
Oh dear. I said I'm shielding, which sounds rather medieval. But yes, it is like house arrest. Can you hear me now, Paul?
I lost all of that.
Oh dear.
Are you picking me up?
Yes.
Your dulcet tones have disappeared, I'm afraid. And I haven't touched anything, so I'm not. Technology is glitching again. Don't know why that's happened, but I can't hear you.
Tell us about your trees, Paul.
Got you. Well, yes, we have a lot of trees in Wanstead, and residents are constantly concerned about trees. Some of them get very upset because these are, of course, Redbridge trees, street trees that line the streets of my ward, and they're very beautiful, and most of them are quite old, and people like trees. And other people hate trees because they have big roots and they dig up the pavement and their front gardens and walls and the foundations of their houses. So this week I've been dealing with the Norway maple, which is a new experience for me. Apparently, one bit of my ward was once owned by Newham down in Aldersbrook, until a sort of boundary annexation in the 1970s when it was included into Redbridge. Newham chose to plant a lot of rather fine Norway maple trees, which are related to the sugar maple that you get maple syrup from, or Canadians do. Anyway, they are rather large forest trees, and they're now getting on for 60 years old since Newham planted them. And these trees will grow to a very fine 25, 30 metres, which is, I suppose, about 90 foot in old money. And if you let them grow to that sort of size, then the root system is absolutely massive. But they have been trimmed back over the years, but the roots are still growing massively. So I've spent most of this week chasing the tree team to get these trees pruned back, but not so sufficiently that we kill them off, because we really don't like killing our trees in Redbridge. One of the greatest results I had as chair of planning was putting tree preservation orders on hundreds and hundreds of trees all over Newark. I used to love it. I even saved sycamores, and I'm not overly keen on sycamores, but it's a great thing to be able to do.
Right, okay, so that's going to help the residents of Redbridge not trip over. Backroom is suggesting, Paul, that you might want to remove your earphone and just use the mic and from the iPad and the sound from the iPad, and that might help you to keep in touch better.
Okay, but, let's give it a go. Can
and
you hear me?
I can hear you. My camera keeps tipping over. Technology is not propping it up.
Yeah, I can just hear you.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so
working?
yeah, it's working for me.
Yeah, so it's all part of the life of a local councillor.
Well, it's very similar to the life of a local resident as well, as we had some on Stewart Street. We had some spectacular trees that were planted by the council, and were also lifting up the pavement. And we kept saying to one housing group they really needed to. We needed some repairs to the pavement, because literally the curbstones were a couple of inches proud. I mean, it was very severe. And one housing group said that they weren't their trees, and that wasn't their bit of Stewart Street, so they wouldn't repair them. And it took us 2 years of saying to them, if you say it's the council's pavement, tell the council. Before they managed to tell the council came down and actually fixed it, and it's manageable now, and has been since it was done. But sometimes you wonder with housing associations just how much you have to spell it out, really. So there we are.
Well, there's a problem with landowners in general, that we all love trees, but landowners are sometimes a bit reticent about spending money on maintaining their trees. And of course, council, we have thousands that we have to look after and tend to. Well, it will cost money.
Yeah, we worked out last week that you'd put us into the shade with our trees, didn't we? When we were trying to get 4,000 planted or something, and now we've lost David Edgar. Now David Edgar's had the chop, by which I only mean that he's been removed from his cabinet position.
I was going to say, I'm a dear old friend of Councillor Edgar. I would not want to see him chopped.
No. Well, I thought he was a permanent fixture in the cabinet, I must say, but for some reason he's moved aside, and there are others now taking his place. So I have to find out who's responsible for trees and see how it is they're going, because every time I used to see him, I used to say to him, "Hello, David, how many trees is it now?" And he would look a bit worried and say, "Well, it's actually only 37, but we're quite close to 4,000, really. We've got some plans." So we need to start that dialogue up again. Do you have any constituents, Paul, who are shielding or under house arrest, as we're now calling it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, we have them. Yes.
And have any of your constituents got a financial relationship or a commercial relationship with British Gas?
Well, I would guess so. I think the comrade wife has arranged a commercial relationship with British Gas on our behalf for this household. I try not to deal with them if at all possible.
Well, I'm beginning to revise my own plans in that direction.
Yes.
At the start of lockdown, I vaguely heard that there was a system so that people who were shielding could get some kind of card from British Gas if you didn't have a smart meter. If you've got a smart meter, you can do something wonderful on the internet and persuade your gas meter. Your computer can persuade British Gas to change your gas meter, which is just fantastic and roughly tantamount to putting men on the moon, I think, or at least into orbit. And but if you haven't got a smart meter, what do you do? And the answer I vaguely heard on some radio program was the system. So a couple of weeks later, when I was put under house arrest, I thought, oh, well, I'd better find out about this. So I looked all through the British Gas website, and I looked at found the phone number and rang them up. And of course, they didn't answer. So I spent loads of minutes listening to messages saying, why don't you try our website? So I tried their website, and I tried the chat, which is a blue button, and spoke to somebody who was just useless. While he was talking and telling me to get a smart meter, and I was saying, well, I can't get a smart meter because I can't let anybody in to install the smart meter. And anyway, your website says you're not installing smart meters at the moment. While all that was going on, I was looking through the said website and found the phone number for vulnerable and awkward sods who haven't got a smart meter that we have to deal with. So I told him, and all the time I then phoned the number and chatted to the people. Well, at the same time, this web chat continued, and he kept putting this message. I don't think he was a person. I think he was a bot. He kept putting this message up saying, coronavirus is a very difficult time, but if we all work together, we're going to manage to get through it. And it just seemed inappropriate.
Eminently possible day and age that you are talking to some bot rather than anything human, yes.
It was not
I've had this when dealing with Argos.
Yeah, it was not a great experience.
Don't buy liquid fertiliser from Argos online. That's my best advice.
Okay. Well, you can explain about that.
Well,
I wouldn't buy liquid fertiliser anyway. Do you not compost?
Well, compost is wonderful stuff, but you do need a little bit of liquid feed as well.
Do you not make
Especially
that?
if you have well, one could, but not sufficient quantities, because I have a very large allotment.
Oh, well, I used to have a bucket, not a bucket, a dustbin, a spare dustbin, and if you put enough weeds in it and enough water, and then add some, what's the polite way of calling it? Human liquid activator. It produces a liquid which is foul smelling, but it doesn't half make things grow. So that's a.
Oh yes, works very well. Yes, we have a bucket stroke bin at the allotment that does indeed do similar. Best not gone into the details really.
No, okay.
But a little bit of liquid seaweed feed always works wonders on the tomatoes and courgettes.
Seaweed I can accept.
Don't rush by Argos is my advice, because it's very complicated.
What did they do to you?
Well, it's just highly complicated, and it would seem at the moment that almost everything at Argos is out of stock. Must be the sort of lockdown rush to gardening. This gardening boom that's good. They haven't got. It's nothing available, and if you try to engage with the website, you have to use the chat facility, and it's a bit tortuous.
Well, there you are. We've both had the same experience with online chatting bots.
It is the joy of the online lockdown world, isn't it? And
but
I've had very similar with the GP.
The bot wasn't the worst of my experiences with British Gas. It was when I got through to the real people that things got worse. First of all, I spoke to a gentleman who told me that they could send out in the post a card that you put in your meter with some money on, and I could put that in my gas meter, and that would add money to the meter. And then when lockdown was over and I could start adding my own money to the meter, they would take off in instalments the money that they had sent me, the money that they had loaned me, if you like. But he told me that I could only apply for a card like that once I had gone into emergency credit. My emergency credit is £5, and I use about £1 of gas a day. He said it was all right because they guaranteed that the card would reach me in 2 days. Not working days, days. So I waited until I was nearly on emergency credit, and I put some on even though I wasn't at zero. So there I was with about £6 on the gas meter. And I phoned back saying, I'm now in emergency credit. Can you please post me the card, the prepaid card? No. So they thought about it again, and I pressed my case, and eventually said yes, they could send me out a card, and it would take between 2 to 4 working days. No, 2 to 4 days, not working days. I asked them working days. No, 2 to 4 days to reach me. So the last person said it was 2 days. Why are you saying it's now 2 to 4? They didn't explain why, but they said it was 2 to 4, and the last one had made a mistake. And I could only have a card once. So instead of the first one offered me, let's put 20 quid on, that will take you to the end of July. With any luck, we'll be out of lockdown, sorted. No. The second one, he said, I you can come back and get another one if you need to. The second one said, no, you couldn't do that. It had to be one. Could I tell her how long I needed gas for? So I said, can you tell me how long the coronavirus is going to put us all in lockdown? And she had to admit she couldn't. So I said, well, in that case, I can't tell you. And this is after they rang me up anyway, because when they phoned up, they went, can I have your name? Gave my name. Can I have your address? Gave my address. That's fair enough. Can we have your date of birth? No. You don't need my date of birth to supply gas. You can supply gas to me however old I am, as long as I'm over 18 and paying your bills, which I have been for 38 years. Brackets, that's a clue. But that was that. So no, they weren't going to, they were only going to send me one card. So we agreed that I would have to put 3 months worth on, and off we went like that. And I waited the 2 to 4 working days and nothing arrived. And I phoned them back. And the third person I spoke to said, I don't know why she said 2 to 4 days. And it's not days, she said it is working days. Oh, really? I said that's the third version I've had. Anyway, she said it's not 2 to 4 either. It's 5 working days. So I phoned up. This was a phone call I had last Friday. And now, of course, it's Tuesday. So that's 10 days or 7 working days I've waited. No sign of a gift card at all. So I could be eating a lot of lettuce. Fortunately, I've now got a lot of lettuce. So I could be on a lettuce diet by now. And but that's basically what's happened.
I've still got an ample supply of sardines to go with the
lettuce. I have, yes.
I'm glad to hear they're still sending the sardines through. I've been worrying about that all.
Well, where would I be without sardines? Yeah, having neat lettuce.
It's doing wonders for your hair growth.
Oh, fantastic. So, having got that far, and being by that stage rather cross, I decided I would actually make a complaint. So I looked on the website, how do you make a complaint? Couldn't find it, had a book, but they sent you to a booklet. I read the booklet online and found an email address where you could complain. So I wrote this, what I've just told you, but with slightly greater detail. I wrote out and sent it off to their complaints department, and I got an email back. Do you know what the email back said? Sorry, we are not monitoring this email at the moment.
Oh, that's very helpful.
When COVID is over, we might get round to having a look.
I think British Gas might be able to improve on their customer care to some degrees. The conclusion you're coming.
Having failed to make a complaint, because British Gas isn't doing complaints at the moment, I then took the next step, which is to send to find their media department and send them a copy of my complaint saying I'm about to write this in the newspaper, which indeed I'll put it on the East London News website. Saying, would you like to provide a media comment on your utterly abject failure of a performance? No, haven't heard from them. So they just seem to be unable. They can't supply gas, which you would have thought is fairly important. They can't handle complaints, and they can't handle media comments. I don't know what they're doing. Apart, maybe they've just got somebody there orchestrating the bots. I don't know. So it was a failure as far as I'm concerned.
It's all part of the online world, isn't it? I mean, back in the simple old days in the 20th century, you just went down to the gas office and sort of waited for 20 minutes and then spoke to someone. Now you can spend 2 hours online going almost nowhere.
Yes.
It's part of the joy of lockdown has become ever increasingly dependent on the online world.
And I like the one. Yeah, I like the one where it says we're experiencing a high volume of calls, which of course is British Gas euphemism for we haven't got enough staff. So that's good. Anyway, so that's my British Gas hell. Don't forget to ring in if you've got a hell story you want to tell us about. 0208 12345 07 if you want to ring in and share what's been going wrong for you this week. So, Paul, you've had your other experience has been with pharmacies, you say?
Oh, well, I'm a man of a certain age now, closing up to 60, and my freedom pass, which I'll probably never be able to use, as public transport will never ever be safe again to use. But the intestinal problems are not getting any better as I get old. So it's been a bit ropey this week. So I thought, better talk to the GP. Well, I've tried the GP since lockdown. Well, the phone system's never been that great, and then after like trying 3 times every morning, and just being told that all appointments had gone, they suggested you try the online booking system. So I had a bash at that, and about the 3rd attempt, I managed to get it to book me an appointment. And lo and behold, the GP phoned me up, which was a lot better than trudging out up to the high street to sit in a waiting room with lots of people coughing and spluttering and so on. So got sorted with him. And then he said, you'll have to provide samples and you need to pick up a blood test form. I said, right, well, how do I do that as the surgery's closed down? He said, well, you just turn up and knock on the door. So I walked up with the dog and I knocked on the door and nothing much happened, and there was no bell or anything. So I hollowed through the letterbox. Hello, it's Mr. Merry here, and I've come to get my sample pots and my blood testing. And unfortunately, I've taken the dog with me, and this set the dog off. The dog went barking. I was shouting. And then the purchased appeared to see this sort of mad shouting man through the letterbox with a mad dog bouncing about, barking at her. And she sort of hurriedly threw these plastic bags at me onto the ground. And I said, that's okay, I don't want to come within 2 meters of you. I'll grab them from there. And I took them away and went to the pharmacist, which involved a very long queue. And unfortunately, the pharmacist is also a post office. So I unfortunately joined the queue for the post office and not the pharmacist. And that wasted about 20 minutes of time. And I got into the pharmacist and he sorted me out due to an online email order I'd put in. And I went home and very, very relieved. As I only consumed about 3 hours of my time, but I did get the dog out for a walk. And then of course, I returned my samples today, but unfortunately, being incompetent and a man of a certain age, I returned my blood test form with the samples, which I shouldn't have done. And now I'm going to go back there again tomorrow and knock on the door and holler through the letterbox to get my blood test form back. So it's a joy, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
I really will lose the will to live in another month. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
and
yes, I
sadly,
know.
I can't see it over by August. But fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, I think I said before, some of these young activists, political activists, they look at people like us and think, you can see the pity in their eyes, can't you? And they don't think they will get old too. So
yes, I say to them, back in the 70s, I was roaming around with Rock Against Racism and the Anti-Nazi League, and we were having loads of fun, and we thought the world was going to be cured of all ills by about 1985. But it didn't quite pan out like that, but you have to keep going.
No, 1985 just wasn't a very good year, actually, was it? I suppose it was a good year. Wasn't that the year the miners went on strike?
Yeah, well, I think I was still unemployed after graduating from Queen Mary College at that stage. I still hadn't found a full-time job at that stage. I was sort of roaming around doing bits and pieces.
Well, this is it. The young people are going to find out what that kind of unemployment's like, aren't they?
Yes, yes. Yeah, it wasn't. This might be grimmer, I think. We had some kind of economy still left mid-80s. We seem to be entirely based on selling coffee and holidays to people now. So if the coffee shops and the travel agents are still banjacks come September, then God knows what's going to happen to the economy.
Well, this is it, isn't it? At the start of this lockdown, we did a show on the sort of economics of it, and I couldn't quite understand it because I thought, well, if everyone's getting 80% of their pay and not having to go into work, so you're working from home or on 100% pay, or you're working from home or not working from home, then surely when the lockdown ends, you'll just have money that you haven't spent and you can go out and get the things you were going to get. But of course, the gap was that people are not going to go out as often. So even pubs, isn't it? You know, that it's not just the tourist hotspots. And the other, it's some industries are just not going to be able to resume, and there's not going to be the same amount of money therefore sloshing around. You know, if you get what 10%, 5% of your population without an income because they're supposed to now be back at work, but they haven't got a job to go back to because the pub's shut or the cafes or restaurants are shut, then they're not going to have the money to spend on getting a new sofa or a new pair of curtains or clothes or whatever. So it does, in fact, it's a lot more precarious. And there's a lot, if you listen to the radio around about lunchtime, you get a lot of stories from people who've fallen through the gap and who've got good reasons why they're actually not entitled to benefits or any of the safety schemes. So it's not looking good.
No, I'm very glad I'm not sort of 20 years old in the 0 hours gig economy. It doesn't strike me as a particularly nice place to be.
No, we've both got kids around the same age, haven't we? So, and I think education's changed a lot since we did it. And kids, youngsters in education now sort of seem to take it a lot more seriously than we did.
DSEs and all levels.
But I'm not sure there's any evidence that that very serious attitude to education and getting the exams that I found so strange is translating into a very serious attitude over finding a career and working at it. Obviously, in some cases, it is. But amongst, friends of our age, I can't say a lot of people come in and say, oh, my son or daughter is and naming a profession. Most of it, my son or daughter is doing a bit of this, doing a bit of that.
No,
maybe I just know wrong people.
Line in mainstream employment. I mean, my oldest is graduated and working in comms PR. I warned him, don't do it in local government like I did. The other one is he's on his gap year this year. I mean, he's supposed to be going off travelling now. I mean, earned some money working for Marks and Spencer's in the city, because he's just trapped here now with us old codgers, playing Call of Duty and doing God knows what on the dark web upstairs, which is all a bit scary, but it's beyond me when he gets.
Probably not the sort of thing we should broadcast, but
will he get away? Will he get away to? He's booked in to do veterinary science at Nottingham. What was the old Poly? Whatever it's called these days.
Nottingham Trent University, isn't it?
That's the one. Yes.
Oh,
Trent, yes. So will he get away in September? Who knows? Could be stuck with them forever.
Yeah, well, mine lasted quite a while, but anyway, enough of that. Dear viewer, if you're moved now by one of your, want to share one of your stories, we're beginning to come to the end of the programme now, but still plenty of time to ring in if you can overcome your shyness and have a rant like Paul and I have just done about what's happening to you at the moment. 0208 1234 507. So give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. But I'm going to just see if there's anything in the news that we can talk about today.
Enough, isn't it? What's happening in Tower Hamlets?
In Tower Hamlets, well, in Tower Hamlets, the mayor and a couple of deputy mayors have noticed the inequality issues surrounding corona, and so they've had a meeting with some academics from Queen Mary.
Oh, my alma mater.
And so I'm sure we all feel cheered and reassured by that news. And of course, as the month of June progresses, two sort of good things in terms of Black Lives Matter that the council has done, namely, this taking notice of the inequality issues, and also acting pretty swiftly to get a statue taken down from West India Quay. Although they did only take it down after some enterprising local types had actually draped it with cardboard placards, which I think was saying Black Lives Matter. Which I think it's a very intelligent protest on the part of Tower Hamlets young people. They didn't deface the statue, they didn't knock it over, they just put cardboard on it with slogans on, and it was enough to draw the attention of the council, and the statue has been taken away, so that's all very good. But on the other hand,
I've been to the Docklands Museum at least twice in the last 5 years, and I can't remember that statue being there for the love of me. But
fortunately, others did.
I think I was far more interested in the cafe.
But there's a couple of reasonable ones around there, isn't it?
It's got a very nice cafe at the dock.
On the other hand, the council, or the mayor, the executive mayor, because we don't have a council as such, it's an executive mayor, is still progressing, as far as we know, with his plans to sack the entire council workforce at the start of July. So, and what we've also discovered over the last few days is that there's no acceptable equality impact survey being done.
Yeah, that's odd, because I used to write them by the school when I was working in Hackney. Everything used to have an EIA to go with it. You used to slave away over them.
I thought it was mandatory, but it's not been done. And the council's produced some figures which it says are an EIA, and it's given them to some councillors who think they are an EIA, but they've gone to Unison's headquarters, and Unison says it's not an EIA at all. It's a set of unrelated statistics that prove nothing. And the union's been asking for the council to say how many people are going to be affected by Tower Awards in each grade, and how many of them are male, female, how many of them are BAME workers, for a start. And that simple information has not been released, we are told. And we were so worried about this in East London News, we actually invited John Biggs to come onto this programme and speak about it, and we invited the council to give us a statement. So I think so far we haven't had a council statement on it, on why there's no EIA, and we're going to have to write back to them and invite them to give us one by next week. And I think John Biggs must be washing his hair tonight, because he hasn't actually responded to accept our invitation, which of course is very sad, because we don't understand why there's no equalities impact assessment. So come on, John, your people want to hear where it is. So come on and let us know. So that's what's going on in Tower Hamlets. We've had a virtual celebration for unpaid carers. And big news though, to all you activists out there, there's a consultation just opened on charging for community-based adult social care. It's open till the start of September, and I haven't looked at it yet because I'm having problems logging on to the council website. When you do a survey in Tower Hamlets, you have to log on to the website. Not that they promise they will never look at your name and email address in connection with what you've actually replied to the survey. In which case, why you need to give your email address, I don't know. But apparently it makes it all more robust. But unfortunately, my log-on's not... I logged on to pay my council tax, and I tried to log on again to look at a survey. I couldn't do it, so there we are. But the introductory words are a bit worrying. It's something about we're going to start aligning our charging system more closely to that of other boroughs, or something like that. So I think that means we're going to put the charges up. I think that means. So we'll look into that further.
But bridge, no doubt.
dear viewer, can you look into it as well, please, and see what the council's doing on that? So that's what's happening in Tower Hamlets. Let's see what's happening in your borough, Paul. Oh, your borough, you need to pull your finger out, because I'll tell you what's happening in your borough, which is exactly what was happening last week. There's been no change to the news releases since last week when we spoke about
Oh,
it. Still,
well,
the headline is
talking
still we took
tomorrow.
action against this bloke selling 14,000 illegal cigarettes. Yeah, go on to them tomorrow, Paul. We need something to talk about next week. So what we're left
Right,
with.
look, the hot news locally was that Wanstead Farmers Market restarted last Sunday.
How was it? Did you go?
Well, I didn't bother toddling up, as I'm sticking to my policy of not actually meeting more than 2 people at any one time, and a good 2 meters or more between us if at all possible because of my medical conditions. So I didn't risk the farmers market, but apparently there was mixed reviews. It was some people seem to think it went quite well. Other people were a bit horrified that there wasn't enough social distancing going on. They did make big efforts, I suppose. I'm not entirely sure how you maintain social distancing at a market, so I really didn't fancy risking it myself. But
Don't you think there's sometimes such a sort of reality divide, isn't there, between Boris on the one hand announcing that this, that, or the other will happen, and then clear evidence of what actually is happening?
Yes.
All this stuff about shops can reopen but maintain social distance. Well, they're not, are they? All those queues for Primark weren't. So what's going to happen?
Well, yes, the goings on outside the Nike shop in up central town was what made me a bit worried. But yes, I mean, I know people might be desperate for quite cheap and readily accessible clothing from Primark. Apparently, they don't do online, so there's a pent-up demand there. But I don't think I would be queuing up at 7:30 in the morning for 2 hours to get into Primark quite yet. But I'm not desperate enough for jogging pants and t-shirts yet, I suppose. But
No, I don't think why people should be, really, because they've just been in lockdown for however long it is.
yeah,
So they can't have
there's
worn their
obviously
clothes out yet.
No, that you would think. There's obviously some pent-up consumer demand from die-hard shoppers there, but I mean, how long this pent-up demand lasts, as we were saying earlier, it remains to be seen. And at this stage, I really don't feel any desire to go and join large queues of people or people milling about in markets. I'm still happy battling online with various online suppliers.
Let's yes, that takes up so much time, doesn't it? There's no time to go out shopping for anything else.
Well, what else have we got to do? It's that or walk the dog to look at trees.
Plenty. Let's just quickly run through what's happening everywhere else, and then we can come to a conclusion. It's your last chance to call on whatever the number was that I said, 0208 1234507. But in the meantime, Hackney's done a good thing, I think. They've set up a £100,000 emergency fund to support migrants and refugees who are not able to access the welfare system. So that can only be a good thing. I know in Tower Hamlets there are some food banks trying to work with migrants, but nothing else. And they're also having a very active review of their names of public places and statues and things like that, starting with Sir Robert Jeffrey outside the Jeffrey Museum. So there's a consultation on that.
Not one with specialist knowledge of Sir Geoffrey, I have to admit. Or I have been in the museum. Got a very nice cafe.
Right. At some point, Paul, we'll have you on doing a cafe review of museums of East London.
Oh, there aren't many cafes in Hackney and the East End that I haven't been in over the last 10 years.
Noted.
But has Mayor Sadiq not decided that we are going to have a public realm review across the whole of the GLA area?
I think Hackney's beaten him to beaten him to it.
Obviously, Vanguard here.
Yeah, the
I'm
People's
glad
Republic
to
of
see radical
Hackney.
things are still happening in Hackney, even though I've left working for them 4 years ago. It's
Yeah.
good to see.
But a lot of stuff belongs to. I think Sadiq's review is London-wide stuff, whereas
Yeah.
and hopefully we're going to have in terms of London-wide stuff. We have invited our local GLA member to come on and talk to us about the transport situation, because that's very controversial. But that is always a future date. Yes, in Newham and Barking and Dagenham, both of them are leading on parking enforcement resuming. In Newham, parking enforcement returns on the 1st of July, and in Barking and Dagenham, it's more gradual. It's come back this week, parking enforcement, but from now to the end of the month, wardens will warn you that you have sinned if you park for too long, and then the fines start again at the end of the month. And Newham is campaigning for more government support for children with special educational needs and disabilities. Send children. Newham, like 8 out of 10 boroughs in the country, has overspent its budget supporting those children. And something's. There's also an issue in Tower Hamlets. Yeah?
But
so that's
at least
an
that
issue.
rather nice young chap, Mr. Marcus Rashford's got the government into line and doing good things on school meals vouchers over the summer. So we might see a few disadvantaged kids actually getting a square meal over the summer holidays and not going hungry. So
well, it's odd, isn't it?
Yeah, Manchester, I say. And
the way that
Mr.
Boris
Gary
has just collapsed is odd, I think. But we'll have to talk about that another week, because our sound is getting a bit cranky. So I think we're going to have to wrap this up and come back to the issues of send and the good news about some holiday meals for children entitled to free school meals. And so I think the only thing that remains is for us to celebrate the good news that Barking and Dagenham Council has bought 30 new street cleansing barrows. So if you live in Barking and Dagenham, your streets should be suitably cleansed. Paul, it's been a blast. Thank you so much for coming on again. I hope you'll come on again in the future. Maybe not quite as quickly, to give you time to go and count your trees or walk the trees and count the dogs.
Anytime you're desperate with news from the outer suburbs, yes, glad to join.
Then I shall communicate in our traditional manner. So I hope, dear viewer, even if you didn't ring in, I hope we've at least entertained you with some of our stories from Councillor's Corner and old Codger's Nook about what we've been going through. And I hope it's made you feel a little bit better. I hope you haven't been going through the same thing yourself. So we're back again at 10 o'clock next Tuesday for, hopefully, if the Newham telephone transmitters have been restored, and if EE, bless them, have managed to restore the internet of the Wi-Fi of the gentleman who we had invited to be on tonight, then we should get an interesting programme about how young people can get into the music business. So fingers crossed that will work for us. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you, Paul. We'll see you soon. So good night.
Okay. Inshallah, we'll stay safe. Keep taking the sardines.
Thank you.